Welcome to the Simply Pediatrics Podcast, simplifying holistic healthcare for infants and children. We're so glad you're here. Join Jennifer Zethner, holistic pediatric nurse practitioner and holistic mom of 3 on a mission. Listen in as she shares the answers to the most asked questions from parents in her practice every day and offers parents practical strategies and actionable steps to support their child's health and well-being. Enjoy this insightful episode of the Simply Pediatrics Podcast and stay tuned for more information at the end of the podcast.
Hi, I'm Jennie Zethner. That's right, I'm here in my car. I don't know about the rest of you, but I find sitting in my car to be very peaceful. It happens to be one of the quietest places I have in my life. I have 3 children. I work full time. I'm busy like the rest of you, and I really would like to share information, and doing it from my car is most convenient. So I'm going to ask you to please forgive if there's any commotion behind me, any beeping, any dogs barking, ambulances, fire trucks, etc. I'll do the best I can to find quiet places. I assure you I will never be driving my vehicle when I speak to you. I will always be pulled over and parked. I am typically parked waiting for one of my children to come out of an event or something. So that is what I'm doing with my time here. And I look forward to sharing information with you. And again, forgive me for being a little unprofessional being here in my car, but I hope it works. And with that, let's get started.
Today's episode, Picky Eaters.
Hello and welcome. I'm so happy to be here with you today. We are talking about picky eaters. One of my most favorite things to talk about with family is picky eaters. Just about every other parent that has a toddler is talking to me about their concerns for what their child does and does not eat. So today we're going to focus really on toddlers. I mean, the pickiness usually starts around like 1.5, 2 years old, and there's a reason for that, but that's about when it starts. Usually around that 18 to 2-year-old mark, they start becoming what we call picky. And that can, depending on the decisions you make while they're toddlers, go all the way through until their teenage years. So let's talk about how we can, kind of prevent this from happening. What can we do? What can we do to help you along, to get you out of that kind of situation where you're stuck feeding your child the same things, and also help to prevent it from occurring in the first place? So a few reasons why children are picky at that toddler age. One of the biggest reasons is because once they're about that 18-month, 2-year-old mark, they are busy, right? They're mobile, they're running around, they can pick up things, they can carry stuff from one room to the other, they can talk to you, they can tell you things. They are so excited every single day. If you're around a toddler, you know, right? Every day is like a huge grand adventure for them. There's so much work, so much play to be had. So sitting down for a meal is not always really what they want to be doing. So that's one of the big things to acknowledge in your young toddler, is that they're not going to sit and consume an entire meal perhaps in one sitting the way that they used to, or the way that you would like them to. So if you've created a meal and your toddler eats only a piece of it and then wants to get up and run around, here's the tip. Pack up that food, put it in a thermos, whatever it needs to be in to keep it good, and give it back to them. Don't discard it, and then when they're hungry in an hour or two, give them a snack, because very quickly your child will fill up on that snack. So multiple meals throughout the day. So a toddler can do like 3 to 5 meals, really. They're grazing throughout the day. So whatever they didn't finish for you, give that back to them as their like secondary meal. So create whatever that meal may be, and if they don't finish it for you, give it back to them. They'll many times tell you or, show you that they don't like what you gave them. That's not always necessarily the case. It may just be that they're not hungry, especially if they just liked that food yesterday or the week before, which is pretty common, right? They just ate it yesterday or 2 days ago, and now they don't like it anymore. Well, they don't not necessarily not like it. They're just not hungry, perhaps, at that time that you're feeding them, or they're too busy and they have other things they want to get done. So allow them to graze. That's my first tip. The second is to remember that children eat their biggest meals early in the day. We as a society tend to give our healthy meals, our meats, our vegetables at night, right? kids are not hungry at night, especially at the time of the year where it's dark at like 5 o'clock. Then they're really not hungry. Their body has already started producing melatonin to put them to sleep. They intuitively know, I do not need this fuel in my body to go to sleep. And what do we think as adults? We need to feed our child a lot before they go to bed so they sleep. That's not true. It's just really not true. You can do that experiment at home and find out for yourself that just they don't need to have a huge meal before they go to bed in order to sleep through the night. In fact, sometimes it's the opposite. The biggest meals you're going to get into your children will be earlier in the day, specifically breakfast. Many children will eat multiple breakfasts. They just ate breakfast and then they're hungry again and again. So feed them breakfast as their biggest meal. And then the other tip is feed them dinner for breakfast or some version of that. Don't stick with the standard American diet. I see families starting that out at like 1 year old. Waffles and pancakes and cereal and oatmeal and fruit and bagels and bread and toast. And standard American, for whatever reason here, is bready, floury, sweet. Bready, floury, and sweet foods for breakfast. And when you have your child being their hungriest, those are not the foods that are optimal for them. Give them the foods that you want them to be eating at that time of the day. So instead of reserving it for dinner, give it to them for breakfast. So what does that actually look like? You can do the American, eggs, bacon, sausage. I do encourage you to get as organic and natural as possible. Or think outside of the box there and give them leftover dinners. Or a more vegetarian style, kind of breakfast, which would be leafy greens, seeds, nuts, and beans. But really think outside of the box when it comes to breakfast foods. And families, another tip, don't rush or skip breakfast. That's really not ideal for anybody. Put your resources and your time toward that meal because it will be the most important meal of the day and the one that you're most likely to get your child to eat, the healthier foods. And listen, if you can get them to eat meats and vegetables for breakfast, you're way ahead of the game. So the rest of your day, you can't get too much more in them. Well, at least you had like a nice big breakfast. Role model eating behaviors. I can't tell you how many times families will say with so much frustration in their voice, but I don't know what to feed them. I don't know what to feed them. I don't know what to feed them for breakfast. And I say, what do you eat for breakfast, mom and dad? And so often I'm just met with a nothing or a shake or, I don't eat until lunch. I understand. Role model the behavior. If you want your child to eat healthy foods, plain and simple. I know that sounds very basic, but I meet many parents who do not eat breakfast. Even on the weekends, they don't eat breakfast. So start to plan that somehow in your day, that you're eating breakfast. You might not eat at the same time as your children, but at certain times of the week, have a breakfast together so they do see you eating the same foods that they're having. That one's really important. Kids role model what they see. Do not feed your child just to get them to eat. This is a big one with picky eaters. It's almost a joke that I say to some parents that I think might not be insulted when they'll say to me, well, he'll only eat Cheerios and banana, and that's it. He will not eat anything else, for example. And my response is, well, you bought the Cheerios, you bought the pancakes, you bought the waffles. Your child's not going to the store and buying those foods and then preparing them for himself. You're feeding him those foods. So we have to acknowledge this, parents. When a child becomes picky, it is because we have caused it. What happens there, the cycle, is that we reach that toddler age where they stop eating the foods that they once liked. And so we as adults say, well, I don't know what to give them anymore, so I'm just going to give them X, Y, and Z. And over the course of a few weeks, if you've only offered them X, Y, and Z because you know those are the foods they'll eat, then that's all they're going to eat. And very quickly, after a few weeks of only getting the same foods, for example, a bagel, peanut butter and jelly, mac and cheese, pizza, common kid foods, right? So after a few weeks of only getting those foods, they're going to be very anxious about getting a green thing on their plate or a different texture of meat. They will be anxious, and that kind of starts the cycle of what we call a picky eater. You've now only given them the same foods over and over and kind of caused it to happen. So break out of that or never start it to begin with. Don't feed your child what they like just to get them to eat. Trust a little bit that if they don't eat what you just gave them, they might not be hungry. Children don't grow as quickly anymore. After, 1 to 2 years old, the growth slows up and they have what we call growth spurts. And they'll go through periods of time where they are wearing the same clothes over and over and over. They're not really growing so much, and all of a sudden they grow. And during those times, they'll eat a lot more food. And then the opposite, when they're not growing, they don't need quite as much. So trust them that if they don't want what you're giving them to eat, perhaps they're not hungry at that time. Don't just give them something at that hour that they like, because you know what? They'll eat it. If you hand them something that they like, if they're not hungry, they will eat it. And now they've kind of filled up on food that, you may or may not be wanting them to eat. I hear that often from families too. It's almost, your children can hear that anger. Oh, they're so picky. They won't eat this. They won't eat that. Watch the language that you use around your child. They're listening all the time, even if they're not talking yet to you. They hear you and they understand if you say something like, Johnny won't eat cucumbers or Kelly won't eat any broccoli. And they hear that and they say, I don't eat broccoli. And then they won't. So watch the language that you use around your children. Another tip, parents, avoid snacks. We're a whole generation of convenient eating. Try to avoid that. Your child will fill up real quick on that protein bar, for example, which is not a good choice for a child. The chips, they'll fill up on the cookies, etc. A shake, kids will fill up quickly on things that we may not want them necessarily filling up on. So be mindful of the snacks and maybe avoid them altogether and stick with the grazing of, 5 meals, especially when they're younger. All right, that is it for today. I have an article that kind of reiterates all the information that I just gave you. That is up on my website, and we will attach it to the bottom of this podcast. Remember, parenting is a journey, and you're doing an amazing job. Stay curious and keep learning. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining Jennie on the Simply Pediatrics Podcast. We hope that the valuable information she shared in this episode will inspire and empower you on your holistic parenting journey. If you would like to learn more about Jennie, her Simply Pediatrics practice, or anything that she spoke about today, please check the show notes that accompany this podcast and you'll find all the links and resources you need. You can also sign up for the Simply Pediatrics mailing list so that you receive Jennie's weekly newsletters packed with vital information and holistic parenting gems. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please consider giving this page a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any episodes. And don't forget to connect with us by sharing your thoughts in the comments section below. Follow Simply Pediatrics on any and all of the social media platforms. And if you're interested in an in-person or a virtual appointment with Jennie, please see the contact details in the show notes. Stay tuned for more episodes packed with a wealth of powerful information to support you on your holistic parenting path. See you next time.